Hey there, welcome. It's good to see you again. This is the next installment of our ASMR Minecraft series. The 9th, to be precise. It's a beautiful day here. As you remember, last time we said goodbye, enjoying these gentle waves rocking us back and forth on the boat on the lake, looking at the nicely lit little pier that we built. This time we're not going to build anything because I eventually want to put even more decoration around the house, to the point where just about every block has some purpose in making things look nice. And of course, for that level of decoration we're going to need some resources. So today we go on a little exploration hike, looking for iron ore, wool if we can find any, and because I see into the future, or past if you like, and I'm recording this voiceover later, I know that we're going to find something interesting in one of the caves, but I'm not letting you in on that secret just yet, so stick around and find out. Maybe I'm taking this decoration game too seriously, but I like doing it. It seems from the views and the likes that people also enjoy it. So let's just keep doing it. I was thinking a lot about what should we have a conversation about in this video. Last time it was a very serious topic, like communication, conflict resolution and management, if it can be resolved. Perhaps it stirs up some emotions. So, after much thought, I didn't come to a conclusion. I was like, there's not anything we're building in this episode. Nothing we're really doing, just tiny little things, looking for iron and whatnot. But that gave me the idea, and sometimes it is the tiny things that are enjoyable or enhance our day a great deal. So they are what we should be talking about here. If we indeed find some iron, or maybe something exotic or rare in the game, that's a tiny thing that's making our day better. But in real life, there's also a ton of tiny things that can completely change our day, make our day, as they say. There are some tiny things that can have a negative effect, of course, but that's always the case. Never any light without dark, as they say. I suppose the topic for today could be labeled the usefulness or the benefit of seeing the tiny things, like this little fox right here with its cute snoring animation. That's a tiny thing, absolutely, and just how lovely it is. I don't know, unfortunately, how to tame it, and as you can see, if I stand up, do any sudden movements, it gets scared. But we're going to leave it to rest. Apparently it's very keen on doing that, and we're just going to go on our own way. We have our own purpose today, and it's not to tame foxes. As you can see, we're also collecting some plants, and grass and ferns for all sorts of decoration purposes. So the benefit of the tiny things, right? In a very cold and rational manner, if that's how we like things explained, we can agree that there are more tiny things than big things in our lives. And of course we're talking about events, things that happen. It's a tiny thing that we woke up today. It's a tiny thing that we brushed our teeth, had breakfast. Maybe it's a medium thing that we're watching this lovely video right now. But the really big things don't happen too often. Now that means that if we wait for the big things to happen, because only they can excite us, they can make us happy, then we're going to be waiting a long time without any good things. But if we appreciate the tiny things, of which there are more, then we'll be happy all that more often. Essentially we are, you could say we're changing our perspective, so that we can live our lives in a better mood. I don't want to use the word happiness just here, because I believe happiness is a bit more complicated than that. Maybe one day we'll talk about that in a video as well. But a better mood. We're basically being more efficient with where we draw our emotional resources from, right? Back in the day, when I used to work as something of a salesman, you could say, my boss used to say that we're not selling tanker ships. If you sell a tanker ship, I don't know how much it costs, actually. Let me look it up right now, because it's going to illustrate this example very well. Tanker ship price. Let's see. A medium range tanker, a long range 1, a long range 2, or a very large crude carrier, and there are some more. Oh yes, an ultra large crude carrier, and it's measured in some kind of a ton. I would suppose it's maybe water displacement, but let me find that out too. Dead weight tonnage is a measure of how much weight a ship can carry. Okay? So it is the capacity, basically. Now, let's settle for a long-range tanker too, somewhere in the middle. It costs $60.7 million and $58 million if it's used. I never knew there was a market for used ships. Anyway, we're not selling tanker ships. If we sold a tanker ship and made a profit of $58 million or $60.7 million in a single deal, that would be enough for a long while, maybe for a lifetime, depending on how modestly we'd like to live. But because we're not selling them, we have to appreciate even the tiny things. Of course, in that context it was about small sales, but we can very easily apply it to everything. A tiny good thing happens. We have to appreciate it because who knows when we're going to find the next client for the tanker ship. Maybe never. Maybe 5 years from now. We can't rely on that one possibility of a good thing for all that time. Recently, there have been two things. Well, maybe one of them is a medium thing, if you'd like to categorize it this way, but they both made me very happy. One of them was that I made a fruit smoothie. And if you were expecting something significant or thought-provoking here, well, you see, friend, that's the idea. It's not. It's just a tiny thing. When it comes to fruit smoothies, it wasn't really just fruit. I have the approach that if I mix a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables together, it's not going to turn out bad, so I put just about everything in there. Maybe this won't be your dream smoothie, but I quite liked it. I might make more today. It had, let's see, banana, peach, apple juice, cherry, and now here comes the funky part. It had celery, a tomato in there as well, and beetroot juice. Now that's funky. But to me it tasted very well and very nicely. And I sat outside my apartment, enjoyed some of the sunshine, put a little ice in the drink as well. It was just a perfect atmosphere that way. I could make that anytime. Doesn't have to be a big thing, but since I can make it quite often, I usually have the time to enjoy a drink, because it doesn't take long at all. It's a tiny thing that I can rely on to make my day better. The other thing was, and I'm saying it might be more of a medium thing because of how much I love plans, as you well know, it was that there was a planned giveaway in a district not mine, but essentially these are municipal initiatives here. Some districts do it to encourage people living there to decorate their apartments or houses with flowers. Maybe they watched a Froghead video lately and they understand the value of decorating with plants. I hereby say hello to any municipal representatives watching this. Anyway, this year I was looking for it, but I couldn't find any of this giveaway happening in my district. I was a bit bummed out because of that, but fortunately when I was looking it up I discovered that in another district where a close acquaintance of mine lives, there is going to be a giveaway. It was so coincidental, but I was so happy about it. And usually from these giveaways I received 4 or 6 little baby flowers. I don't suppose they're saplings. I think trees have saplings, but you know, baby flowers. But this time, to my absolute surprise, I received 20. That's 10 geraniums and 10 other, well, I don't know their kind in English. Some of them I don't even know in Hungarian, but they're beautiful and they seem to be doing very well just outside my apartment in this semi-sunny spot. It looks like a win for everybody because I couldn't fit everything in front of my own apartment. So I had to invade the space of my neighbor. Of course, I asked him, but I would have been surprised. I don't know why anyone would mind that there's some nice flowers in front of their apartment instead of nothing at all. The silly thing was that I needed a lot of soil for this, and despite my back telling me not to, in words of pain, I carried home 60 liters of soil on my back, but it was worth it. And I don't want to complain. So let's move on with this topic. As you see, we just found some wild onions and beautiful allium flowers. I like the attention to detail here because, as you might know, onions are also a type of allium. I think this is the responsibility of the Farmer's Delight mod developers, and they seem to be putting a lot of detail into their mod. I like it. So lately these two things have really enhanced my days. You know, sometimes they enhance more than just a day. Sometimes you're happy about these things for several days or even a week. And of course, we can do this for each other. It's not just about gifting yourself with something, it's, or the municipality, I suppose, gifting you with some flowers. Sometimes even between two people. It's not the value that counts. I often find that the gift that I would appreciate by value is, it would be just too valuable. It would simply cost too much. to the point where I wouldn't want or expect anyone to gift me with it, because it's just too expensive. It makes no sense. And if I really want that item, I can just buy it for myself. I don't want to rely on anyone's wallet. What I appreciate much more, and I think many people can agree with me here, is that if there was a bit of extra attention put in there, maybe you're not just giving someone a bouquet of flowers, but you know what their favorite flower is, or favorite color, and you pick out exactly those ones, and that's what you give them. Maybe it's just 3 pieces of flower, but that person will love it more than 100 red roses, because it shows that you've been paying attention to them. Or maybe, if it's a surprise, just the fact that you made the effort of thinking about that person. I think we discussed when we were talking about friends in general and companionship, or I think it was in the episode of things that enhance our lives, habits. The power of surprise is often it can sweeten the deal a lot, right? Especially exactly because that person wasn't expecting it. Sometimes I do charity runs, essentially giving leftover food, but still, of course, good and healthy food, to people who don't have any. And of course it's not the value of the food. It's not even expensive. Even they could afford it if they wanted to. But the fact that someone took the time and the effort and the energy to bring it to them, maybe exchange a few good words, is just invaluable to them. And of course it's very good to see. It's very reassuring. If you've made it so far in this video, I'm very curious. What was the last tiny thing that made your day better? Or maybe not the last one, but one that was quite memorable, that you think back upon with joy, knowing that that kindness still exists in the world, or maybe knowing that you have that kindness in yourself and you can pay that forward. Let me know in the comments. On this note, I just started thinking about something else, along with the appreciation for tiny things, and that's how much or how little, how well or how poorly we appreciate things based on how we already feel, our current mood, emotional status. this is something I've been talking about with a couple of friends lately, and I've gotten some interesting answers. My hypothesis was that our current mood, it doesn't influence what's happening to us in a sort of karma way, where we just attract the good things, but it was more like, because we are having a good time, our thoughts are also better, and of course nothing influences sort of what's happening to us from an external source as much as the very way we perceive it, which is of course our thoughts. So one could say, by being in a bad mood, we pull a dark drape over everything that happens to us. And by being in a good mood, we shine a nice, comforting, warm light on everything that happens to us. Obviously, this doesn't mean that if you're having a bad day, nothing good can happen to you. But let me return to this topic in a couple of minutes, after we appreciate some of this beautiful cave scenery here. Just join me and listen. I love it. Nothing too concrete, just the water dripping, and I suppose some wind moving in here. And as you see, we reached the full special thing that I mentioned in the beginning, which looks like a really old ruined tower, interestingly enough at the bottom of the swamp, or this swampy, mossy cave. So what I'm saying doesn't mean that if we're having a bad time, it can only get worse. That's of course silly, because it will get better. At some point we know it will get better. If you don't believe it, then I am here to tell you that it will. Right here in this tower, actually, there's not much, but we did find a barrel with some treasures in it, including some armor, which we don't necessarily need, but who knows, maybe one day it will come in handy. Some paper, a couple of resources, and of course 2 diamonds, which is a very welcome surprise. I'm also not saying that if we're in a good mood, nothing bad can happen to us, because, well, life happens, as they say, and sometimes that happening means that things come at us very quickly, very strongly, and there's not much we can do to dodge or avoid them or block them. We just have to deal with that bad thing. I will return a little bit to this topic at the end of the video, but let me just explain what I mean here. Some friends, when I was talking to them about this, said, "Oh, it doesn't matter sometimes good things happen on good moods, bad things on bad moods, good things on bad moods, and bad things on good moods. It just happens. And of course I can't argue with that. That is true. But I found that the same thing can be a good or a bad thing, depending on how we feel. Let me just think of an example here. In the Hungarian version of this video, I mentioned encountering someone on public transport who's being a bit silly. They are making a scene. They have maybe a guitar and they're singing some silly song. Not too loud, but loud enough that it could disturb me. That there could be a problem with it if that was my mood. They're not being offensive, not singing anything bad about anyone, but it is a little bit loud. And if I'm in a good mood, I'm going to say, oh, this guy. There's enough seriousness in the world. In fact, some people take themselves too seriously. This guy found a way to escape that, at least for today. Good for him, and good for me, because I'm going to listen and laugh about the lyrics that he's singing. It's very silly, but it's funny as well. Or if I'm in a bad mood, I could say, oh, this guy. I'm tired enough. I'm agitated enough. I don't need anything special in my life right now. Can you just shut up and respect other people? Of course, we don't want to talk about if this is right or wrong. What we're interested in here is just its effect on us. This is why I think that our mood influences what happens to us, because the same events are going to be painted in a different color depending on our mood. Now, of course, you can't force anyone to have a good mood. You can't really change your mood on command. Thinking, oh, there's this unfortunate event that just happened. Let me just approach this in a good way. To some extent, of course, you can. You can think about what the silver lining is. But if you are in a bad mood, you can't magically change that. So this would require more of not a general good mood. That's also a little bit impossible. But perhaps a lot of getting used to, and maybe conditioning, maybe learning, understanding that we can achieve perhaps a better state of mind if we encounter enough situations where it matters what it's like. I'm just theorizing about this. I'm still no psychologist or anything like that. But I can say that I'm fortunate enough to, I think, see a lot of things in a good light. I'm saying fortunate because I don't really want to claim credit as if this is an achievement or something. But you can say it could be learned. Maybe not taught, but learned, for sure. Through this topic, I wanted to touch upon one final thing. And that kind of ties in with how we receive hardships, as I mentioned before. It also ties in with what we discussed, I believe, in the last video about what doesn't kill you, doesn't make you stronger, but recovery does. With all this talk, and I hope whoever has been disagreeing with me is watching this video long enough so that I can clarify myself. Not for a single second do I mean that you feeling bad is invalid. It's very, very much valid. It doesn't matter if you are overreacting, even if others say so, even if you think so yourself. Maybe it's an insignificant thing. Maybe someone else will eventually handle it. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility. Right now, that does not matter. It does not matter, because if it makes us sad, if it makes us angry, then it makes us sad and angry. That, at least for a while, cannot be disputed. If you hear about something or you witness an event and it jerks a tear out of your eye, you can't say that was a bad reaction, a stupid reaction. It was your very first instinctive thing to do. You are not a drama queen or drama king for doing that. Yes, we can convert our lives to be a little bit more joyful with the right practices, but we can't escape the concept of sorrow. It's human just as much as everything else. If you are feeling depressed about something, if you're angry about something, let me tell you now that it's completely valid and fine. Why I mentioned the what doesn't kill you doesn't make you stronger, but recovery does. Why I mentioned that is because we need to understand that recovery, as much as it makes us stronger, absolutely needs its own time and effort and energy. I would like to make an example with how physical injuries work. With the current state of my back, I know all about it. And because I've been involved in different kinds of physical exercise for a long time, I've had other situations as well. Essentially, you first suffer the injury. I pull my back, or I fall from someone, I break something, and then by the same logic, emotionally, we lose someone, we lose something, we are disappointed, we are betrayed. We are left. we're being jealous, we're being afraid. It's a bit more abstract than physical injury, of course, but there's all sorts of emotional injury too. You tried your best to see things in a good light. That would be staying fit, right? If I exercise often enough, I'm less prone to injury, much less prone. I can move in a way, I can lift things that perhaps other people can't. And I'm sorry, I'm not talking about myself here. I will say this, and I will address this to you. If you stay fit, you can lift great weights, right? You can move in a way in which other people can't, because otherwise they'd be injured. By the same logic, emotionally, you can withstand bad things happening, or just anything happening, because you have the right tools and methods for handling and processing that. But of course, the injury itself can still happen. No amount of good atmosphere and conscious approach is going to make us immune to loss or all of the horrible things I described before. When that happens, of course, you first need ambulant care. And by ambulant I mean first aid, right? You can't immediately move on to recovery. And that's another important point. You need the due process and time, the method to heal. If you've broken something, you need to secure that limb, not move it. If you pulled something in your back, yeah, you need not to move that either. You really shouldn't carry 60 liters of soil back from anywhere. If you do that, you are immediately hindering your own recovery. This part is the what doesn't kill you. It's not yet the making you stronger part. The making you stronger part is the long part of the recovery. Also, drawing the conclusions, learning the lessons in an emotional way, being prepared and flexible if the situation arises again. The same way a bone that's been broken, when the body fixes it, it becomes stronger than it was before. But it needed that fix. It needed the calcium and all the other minerals to heal, and it needed the time. You have to give it some time and effort and energy. Yes. Of course, finally, when you are healed, you need to take things easy once again. It makes sense, and of course, physically we can usually feel get very immediate responses from our body in the form of pain. But maybe emotionally we don't tend to pay as much attention when something hurts us. And if we don't pay attention, if as soon as I'm physically able, I'm going to go and carry 80 liters of soil on my back, maybe that's just a step never to carry anything anymore on my back, ever. If you lose something, or if there's a bad breakup, after you recovered, I'm sorry, let's go from the beginning. You first need to deal with the immediate lack of that person or of that relationship. Then you can move on to letting that person go. Understanding that it could not have been forced. Respecting their decision to leave if it was theirs. Then of course you need to move on, become ready to open up to someone else. And of course do that slowly, so that you don't feel like you've laid all your cards out to someone undeserving. Things are emotionally comfortable for you. And as I said, yes, after recovery you gotta start slow and take things easy. You can't get married immediately, you could say. I suppose that's just about everything I wanted to share with you. To summarize, a good positive approach will help us with most threats in our life. But when something bad happens, give it time, give it some energy, give it some effort. Allow yourself to feel that. Maybe dwell on it a little bit, just a bit, so that you can recover and restart all that stronger. Friends, thank you very much for listening to my ramble and for joining this episode. Please leave me a like, subscription, or a comment if you like this video. Have a wonderful day. I wish you strength and flexibility for any challenges that might be coming your way. Goodbye.